my answer to how do you avoid failure. I'm going to begin by one of my mentors. He was, well, I should call him one of my mentors. He's a mentor in so much as I've known him for many years, have connected with him, and enjoy his book. I will give you his name as well, and the book is one of them that we offer here through 5-Star, The Compound Effect, Darren Hardy. When he was 12 years old, he had in his bedroom, he had a whole bunch of pictures of Ferraris up on the wall. And so his dad's mentor was there one evening when he came home from school, and his dad, his mentor looks at him and says, "So it's going to be a red Ferrari, is it?" And little Darren says, "Yes, it will." And so the mentor asks him, he says, "How much are you earning per day or week?" And so he says, he gives him the number. Mentor looks at him for a moment and then tells him, "You're not going to earn it with that type of income. You're going to have to do something more. You're going to have to up your game if you're going to be riding in a Ferrari." He goes, "Well, what more can I do?" Mentor asked him, "Are you really sure you want to know?" And he said, "Absolutely." He was all about it. He says, "Okay, this is what you can do." They were in Southern California. There was, at that point in time, it was very common for people to come in on the train years ago, and they would go out with applications and get people's information for businesses, and this was actually sold to businesses. And he could earn $2 for every application that he gathered. He was like, "Oh, this is good. I can do this." Now the guy didn't tell him how much he could earn. He just told him there's a way of earning money. Told him it's going to be a little bit challenging because you're selling people on the idea of putting their information on paper. As a 12-year-old boy, thinking that this would be extra income and he could ride in a Ferrari, this sounded really good. He says, "Okay, sign me up. I'm going." He says, "Okay, here you go. You're going to have to talk to a certain person down close to the train station." And there's a lot of young men that do this from the ages of, 10 to 16. And so he meets with the gentleman. He says, "Sure, we can help you out. First week you're going to work with a 16-year-old boy that's been doing this for some time." And he was all about it. Everything sounded good. He went out to do his first day. He worked with the 16-year-old. A lot of the people weren't very interested in giving him that information. Matter of fact, one person actually spit on his feet. Many told him to get lost. Some just ignored him completely. But there were still quite a few. But he was energetic, enthusiastic, committed, and planned on getting a whole bunch of them. By that night, he had gotten 104 of them. He was tired, frustrated, and did not know that people could be that rude. But he just discovered it. Okay, so he comes in, but he had his 16-year-old with him all the time. He would ask him questions and learn from him of what he was doing wrong and how he could do better, and the list goes on. They show up at the man's desk, and he throws the papers down, and the old man looks through his glasses, looks at each paper individually, and at the end of it, he says, "You did a good job. Here is 104 of them." And by then, he already knew he was getting $2 a piece for them. The old man pulls out the money and hands it to the 16-year-old. Young Darren looks at that and thinks this is the most cruel, unrealistic thing he'd ever experienced in his life. He says, "Wait a minute. You gave him the money. I did the work. The old man says, well, he was training you today, wasn't he? And you're going to be in training for, I think it was 2 weeks before he was actually to go out on his own. And so he comes home that night. His dad's mentor was there again because they were expanding their business, so they were spending a lot of time together looking at what it takes to expand their business and to go to the next level. So there was the mentor again. Darren comes in, looks at the mentor, his face red, frustrated and angry, slams the door, goes to his bedroom, slams that door as well, but in the process of walking by there, accused the mentor of cheating on him, and not cheating on, but cheating with him and telling him that he had, there was a way of earning money, and then he goes and works hard all day and he gives it all away. And he called, I forget exactly what it was, but he called him some bad names. He wasn't very happy with his dad's mentor because his dad's mentor got him to work and he didn't even get a penny of it. And after he was done being mad, he still wasn't done being mad, but he still wanted to come out and just really let this mentor know what he thought of him. Came back out, fuse blew off some more, and then the mentor said, now, Darren, if you're ever going to be successful in life, this is one thing you're going to learn. If you're going to have a mentor, they're going to challenge you to go out and do things that make you uncomfortable. And no, you're not going to get paid always for everything you do when you start out. You had a person out there that was working with you. He could have been out there doing his own sales, but he chose to support you. You're going to pay for your learning. It's not going to be handed to you free. You're going to pay for it. Or you're going to play way below your God-given means, whichever one it is. Darren finally cooled down and realized that, yeah, he's probably right. But that started his journey in overcoming his fear. That started his journey in sales. I'm going to move forward. Years later, his father had moved to the East Coast, had a real estate business there. Darren, at that point in time, young man, 21 years old, sharp, knew it all, smart, had made a lot of sales, had been rejected more than most people do in their entire life he'd already had up to that point. Very powerful. But he wanted to be the number one salesperson in his dad's office. He wasn't interested in pushing others down to make sure that he stays number one. He was interested in rising up and being number one. I've seen leadership that would rather hold others back rather than go ahead and expand themselves and move on up. But Darren was one of those that was interested in being the number one. He didn't mind if you worked hard and did a lot. He was going to outwork you, and he did. However, they had a speaker there that day, and at the end of it, Darren asked the speaker, can I take you out to eat? And the speaker says, sure. He would love to do that. They went out to eat, and he says, I want to be the number one salesperson in my dad's office. How do I do it? What do I need to do to be the number one person? The speaker looks at him and tells him, go after rejection. After Darren took both hands and picked his jaw up off the table, he was like, what? I thought we try to avoid rejection. He said, no, go after the rejection. You see, there has to be rejection in life for us to get anywhere. There has to be failure. Failure is not an option. It's a necessity. It's something we go through. True failure is when you quit, give up. But failure as in failed a sprint, failed a sale, failed a phone call, failed a business opportunity, failed a contract, something of that nature. That type of failure is what I'm talking about. Then he goes to explain to Darren, business is much like a pendulum. If you push the pendulum over on the side of failure long enough, ultimately that pendulum will swing back over on the side of success. And when it does, you will experience success like most people never will, because most are striving hard to push it the opposite direction. He said, if you go after rejection, ultimately you will become the best, the top earner. Darren, young man, 21 years old, had already had experiences with mentors at the age of 12, decided, okay, if this guy knows what he's talking about, that's what I'm doing. He set his goal to get 40 rejections per day, and walking up and down the streets, talking to people. Some would open the door just a crack and tell him to leave and shut the door. Others would tell him to get off his porch. Some dogs would try to latch on to him. Some children would throw rocks at him. Some people would listen to him. Some would take his card. Once in a while, he'd have a few people that actually wanted to engage with him in his offer of buying or selling a house, and that's who was into real estate. But what ended up happening is, and by the way, the days when people did accept his offer, it would take him much longer to get his 40 rejections. But at the in 3 months, he was the top salesman in his dad's office. In 3 years, he was like the top realtor on the East Coast. Guys, let me be very clear. Failure is not an option. It's a necessity. It is something that we must experience. We must experience rejection in life. We must experience not always having things go perfect. There's times where they don't. And we discover from it. We learn from it. We make good choices. We pick ourselves up and we recognize how we perform when put under pressure. How we act. Do we shrink back and go back into old habits? Or do we lift ourselves up and take a new step into an arena we've never been into? It is so easy to go back into old habits when put under pressure. But the real leader steps into a new arena and challenges himself. With that, guys, make it a great day, and as always, remember, don't settle for less than who you are. May God bless you.